Hi guys, and this is Casey's, Alyssa's, and Fiona's presentation on agriculture.
Why do people consume different foods? Factors influencing food consumption are level of development, which has developed countries consume more food in a greater variety, and developing countries rely on local staples. Number two is physical conditions. Climate influences what can be grown, and some countries import foods due to unfavorable climate. The last one is cultural preferences. Food choices reflect cultural traditions more than environmental factors. Food consumption is measured in kilocalories. The average global intake is around 2,902 kilocalories per day. In developed countries, people consume over 3,400 kilocalories daily, while in developing countries, the average is closer to 2,800. But in sub Saharan Africa, consumption often falls below 2,400 kilocalories, leading to widespread undernourishment. Food shortages around the world aren't caused by lack of food but by unequal distribution. Some areas face famine despite global overproduction. As populations grow and farmland becomes limited, food insecurity increases. On the flip side, obesity, especially in North America, parts of the Middle East, and Oceania, is linked to excess food consumption. The USDA's Dirty Dozen list highlights fruits and vegetables with the highest pesticide contamination, like strawberries, spinach, nectarines, and apples. In contrast, the Clean 15 includes the least contaminated produce. Undernourishment is the dietary energy consumption continuously below the minimum requirement. In 2017, 803 million people were undernourished worldwide. The regions that were most affected were South Asia, Sub Saharan Africa, and East Asia. 25% or more of populations that are undernourished are in Sub Saharan Africa and parts of Asia. India, China, and other parts of Asia have the most undernourished people. South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa still have a high level, but Latin America showed a decrease over time. Rising food prices are a major issue for food security in the 21st century. People in developing countries spend a much bigger percentage of their income on food compared to those in developed countries, so they're more affected when prices rise. Food prices are going up due to several factors, such as poor weather in the major crop growing regions like the South Pacific, higher demand, especially in China and India, slower growth in agricultural productivity, and the use of crops for biofuels like ethanol. Cereals like wheat, rice, and maize are the main sources of calories worldwide. Wheat is dominant in Europe, North America, and Southeast Asia. Rice is most important in East, South, and Southeast Asia. Maize is key in sub Saharan Africa and parts of Latin America.
Key issue 2. Where did agriculture originate? Invention of agriculture. Agriculture began before recorded history, so exact dates are unknown. Scholars use evidence from ancient agriculture and environmental conditions. Agriculture evolved over thousands of years through plant cultivation and animal domestication. Hunters and gatherers. All humans originally survived by hunting, fishing, and gathering. Small groups, 50 people, were mobile, moving for food sources. Men hunted or fished. Women gathered. Some groups still practice hunting and gathering today, offering insight into ancient customs. Agriculture Revolution, marked by the shift from hunting or gathering to domestications of plants and animals, happened about 1,000 years ago. Factors contributing to the shift was environmental. Climate change, end of ice age made farming possible. Cultural. Desire to stay in one place led to experimenting with planting. Agriculture Horse. Agriculture developed independently in multiple regions. Southwest Asia. Barley, wheat, lentil, olive, and animals like cattle, goats, pigs, and sheep. East Asia. Rice and millet. Central and South Asia. Chicken and horses. Sub-Saharan Africa, yam, millet, and rice. Latin America, beans, cotton, potatoes, and maize. Crops diffused from hearth and patterns that affected cultural and subsistence and commercial agriculture. Differences between agriculture types. Subsistence agriculture, found in developing countries, focuses on growing food for family use. Commercial agriculture, found in developed countries, focuses on producing cash crops for sale. Farmers, fewer grow more. In developed countries, only small percentages work in agriculture, 3% or less. Technology and machinery allow fewer farmers to feed large populations. In developing countries, a higher percentage of people work in agriculture due to limited access to technology.
Key issue 3. Where is agriculture distributed? Agricultural regions in developing countries. Intensive subsistence, wet rice dominant. The large population concentrations of East Asia and South Asia. Intensive subsistence, wet rice not dominant. The large population concentrations of East Asia and South Asia, where growing rice is difficult. Pastoral nomadism, the drylands of Southwest Asia and North Africa, Central Asia, and East Asia. Shifting cultivation, the tropical regions of Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Southeast Asia. Plantation, the tropical and subtropical regions of Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Agricultural regions in developing countries, mixed crop and livestock, the U.S., Midwest, and Central Europe. Dairy, near population clusters in the northeastern United States, southeastern Canada, and northwestern Europe. Grain, the north central United States, south central Canada, and east Europe. Livestock ranching, the drylands of western North America, southeastern Latin America, Central Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the South Pacific. Mediterranean, lands surrounding the Mediterranean Sea, the western United States, the southern tip of Africa, and Chile. Commercial gardening, the southeastern United States and southeastern Australia. Intensive subsistence agriculture. 3/4 of the world's people living in developing countries, and the form of subsistence agriculture that feeds the most of them is intensive subsistence agriculture. The term intensive implies that farmers must work intensively to subsist on a parcel of land. Intensive subsistence farming. In developing countries, most people produce food for their own consumption. This is especially true in intensive subsistence agriculture, the most widely practiced form of agriculture in densely populated East, South, and Southeast Asia. Land is used even more intensively in parts of Asia by obtaining 2 harvests per year from one field, a process known as double cropping. Double cropping is common in places that have warm winters, such as southern China and Taiwan, but is relatively rare in India, where most areas have dry winters. Shifting cultivation. Shifting cultivation is a form of subsistence agriculture in which people shift frequently from one field to another. It is practiced in much of the world's tropical or climate regions, which have relatively high temperatures and abundant rainfall. It is practiced by roughly 250 million people across 36 million square kilometers, especially in the tropical rainforests of Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Southeast Asia. 2 distinctive features of shifting cultivation are slash and burn. Farmers clear land for planting by slashing vegetation and burning the debris. Shifting cultivation is sometimes called slash and burn agriculture. Frequent relocation. Farmers grow crops on a clear field for only a few years until soil nutrients are depleted, and then leave it to follow for many years so the soil can recover. Crops of shifting cultivation. The crops grown by each village vary by local custom and taste. The predominant crops include upland rice in Southeast Asia, maize and mayonic in South America, and millet and sorghum in Africa. Yams, sugarcane, plantains, and vegetables are also grown in some regions. These crops have originated in one region of shifting cultivation and have diffused to other areas in recent years.
Plantation farming. A plantation is a large commercial farm in developing countries specializing in 1 or 2 cash crops, common in Latin America, Africa, or Asia, mainly tropical or subtropical climates. The crops grown are cotton, sugarcane, coffee, rubber, and tobacco. Products often exported to developed countries. Historically important in the American South for cotton and tobacco using enslaved labor. Fishing. This includes fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and aquatic plants. Fishing is vital for many developing countries, diets, and economics. Major fishing regions: Pacific Northwest, Western Central Pacific, Atlantic Northwest, and Indian Ocean. China, which is the largest producer. Fish consumption and production. Fish consumption has increased globally, especially in developing countries. Aquaculture is rising faster than wild capture fishing. Overfishing is a concern. About 25% of fish stocks are overfished. The solution: sustainable fishing aquaculture expansion.
Livestock ranching involves commercial grazing of livestock, mainly cattle and sheep, over large areas. It is common in arid and semi-arid regions with sparse vegetation such as South America, western US, and the interior of Australia. It is spreading to MDCs due to global demand. Meat production's top producers are China, US, and Brazil. South America is heavily involved in cattle grazing. Transport routes often bypass processors heading directly to railroads and highways. China has become the largest meat producer in 2016, passing the US. US ranching shifted from open grazing to feedlots to boost efficiency. Dairy farming specializes in milk, milk products, cheese and butter, and yogurt. Milk is perishable, so they're typically located near urban markets, which are called milk sheds. The United States leads in milk production, followed by India. Sharp growth of dairy farming in LDCs has been found recently. An economic pressure is labor intensive, which is where cows are being milked daily. Elevating costs and declining revenues have pushed several dairy farmers out of business. Seasonal feed challenges add to costs. For an example, winter feed in colder climates. Agricultural land use in MDCs is driven by market forces. Proximity to market affects crop choices due to transportation costs. The von Thunen model explains it. In that model, there are 4 rings around the markets. The first one is gardens and milk, the perishables. The second one are woodlots for fuel. The third one is crop rotations. And the last one is grazing livestock. Real-world factors affect ring shapes, like roads, trains, rivers. Farmers choose crops that maximize profit after transport costs.
Why do farmers face sustainability challenges? Key issue 4. Both subsistence and commercial agriculture face a complex challenge to produce more food for a growing world while preserving Earth's agricultural resources for the future. The future of food and agriculture is being pulled in global and local directions. On the other hand, an increasingly integrated global agricultural system is devoted to producing the most food at the lowest cost for the world's nearly 8 billion humans. But critics charge that the global agricultural system is causing ecosystems for the sake of short-term production. Drug trade. Cocaine comes from coca plants, mostly grown in Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. About 18 million people use cocaine, mostly in wealthy countries like the U.S. It's often shipped from Colombia to Mexico, then to the U.S. Opioids, like heroin, comes from the opium poppy plant. There are also man-made opioids. Around 19 million people use opiates, and 34 million use opioids in total. Afghanistan grows about 90% of the world's opium. Most of it travels through Iran and Turkey to Europe or through Central Asia to Russia. Marijuana from the cannabis plant is grown in many places. Around 182 million people use it. Most of the marijuana in the U.S. comes from Mexico. While cannabis growing isn't expanding much, growing of opium poppies and coca is increasing. Global food trade. Food trade around the world has grown a lot in the 21st century. Agricultural exports from all countries went from 445 billion in 2000 to 769 billion in 2016. Exporting food helps countries sell extra crops, while importing food helps countries that don't grow enough for their people. But trading food also brings challenges for both sides. Europe used to import most of its food. After World War II, places like East Asia and the Soviet Union started importing more food too. In the 1950s to 2000s, regions like Southwest Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Central Asia also became major food importers because their food production couldn't keep up with the growing population. Overall, food moves from the Western Hemisphere to the Eastern Hemisphere. Latin America, especially Brazil and Argentina, is a major exporter. Other big exporting areas are North America, Southeast Asia, and the South Pacific. Losing agricultural land. In the past, food production grew because more land was used for farming. Now, population is growing faster than we can add farmland. Only about 11% of the world's land is good for farming, and we are losing some of it. Urbanization is a major cause. As cities grow, they spread like farmland, especially near large cities like those on the east coast of the U.S. Over 500,000 acres of the best farmland in the U.S. has been lost due to expanding cities. The Green Revolution. The Green Revolution involves two main practices: the introduction of new, higher yield seeds and the expanded use of fertilizers. Because of the Green Revolution, agricultural productivity at a global scale has increased faster than population growth. GMO labeling. A genetically modified organism, GMO, is a living organism that possesses a novel combination of genetic material obtained through the use of modern biotechnology. Many countries, including most European countries, China, and India, require GMO labeling. The debate in the U.S. has been especially fierce concerning whether GMO food should be labeled. In the United States, the food industry opposes GMO labeling, and voters are divided. Most countries other than the United States have signed agreements to regulate GMOs, including labels. U.S. consumers may wish to cut back on their consumptions of GMOs until more is learned about their long-term effects on ecosystems and health. Thank you for listening to our video on agriculture. Good luck on the AP exam.